Got it. Dun 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 dun. Now it's serious. All right, we're gonna
Serious
let
enough, our fearless captain there has gone blank and has my name up again.
yeah, she's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because
No.
it's gone.
I don't blame her. Do you? For those who are trickling in, I will tell you that Megan was trying to log in to make sure she could hear us. And so Brian and I, mouthed words, of course, to make her feel like her audio was broken, which was as funny as we thought it would be. So
Yeah.
That's very par for the course for fire department personnel in a sense. So yeah.
right. Like, welcome. Thank you for doing this. Now let me fuck with you.
Right.
It's
I get enough
consistent.
of
It's
that at
on
work.
right, but it's on brand. We want to make sure that we're really true to the spirit here of the fire service. Oh, all right. So everyone, welcome. I know we'll probably have a few more people trickling in, but we really appreciate everyone making the time to be on today and here. And I'm very excited about this presentation. We've been talking about spotlights on success and really highlighting departments that are doing really amazing things. And Fairfax County has just really been at the top of the list, my list personally, since I started doing work with the fire service. So by way of introduction for anyone I don't know, because I'm actually seeing some names that I don't recognize on our participant list. So yay. I'm Sarah Jenke, and I direct the Center for Fire Rescue and EMS Health Research, and also am the author behind your somewhat bizarre and quirky emails from Science to the Station. So run the efforts there. And really what we're doing with Science to the Station, I'll put in chat on the off chance that you saw this on social media and are not a member of our merry band of nerds yet. We about 2,200 people strong, but people are interested in health and wellness in the fire service. And one of the things that we've noticed is that there are so many people that are doing amazing things, and there's so many successes out there. We don't do a great job of sharing information. So we have some stuff. We've got some work groups lined up. We have some sub alliances within that are building up some resources. But our real goal is to take science, move it to the station. Say who's doing evidence-based work, how are they implementing it at the fire department and the station level, and how do we have successes there? So if you haven't signed up yet, sign up and you'll start getting the emails. We have some social media efforts underway because that's not my strong suit. So we'll be doing better with social media here in the near future. And I think this is going to be a big year for us. We'll have our second conference, yada, yada, good stuff ahead. But Fairfax County, thrilled that this crew is on because they're doing amazing things. They've got a lot of lessons learned. And also I asked them to share some of their failures learned. So things that they wish they hadn't done that they realized that they, in hindsight, they said they did everything perfect. So I don't know, that's going to be a short part of the presentation, but I think it's going to be a really good one. Brian, I've known Brian for a long time, and every time I leave a conversation, I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. Other people need to know that. So I'm going to shut up. We are recording this. We'll post it later. If you have questions, you can pop them in I think you can pop them in the Q&A. And they're going to go through kind of what they've done with up there in Fairfax. And then we'll go back and answer questions at the end, or if there's something that you really want to interject with, we can do that as well. So I'm going to shut up and hand this over. I think Brian's kicking it off, and you guys can all just introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so hello everyone out there. Thank you to Sarah and Melanie and the team for having us join today and be part of this presentation with you all. We're really excited for the opportunity, one, to highlight what we've done with the Fire and Rescue Department and the support from our Fire Chief, John Butler, who also is the IAFC president, and just our total executive staff, which is really one of the things, a lesson learned in how we build relationships throughout this program. You'll get to hear some more of that. And I can't be remiss not to forget not only partnership with IAFF and our local 2068, the importance of relationships is tantamount to achieving something like this and continue to have those healthy conversations, that positive discourse to get things done. So with me, I have Jake Patton. Jake, you want to say a few words and say who you are?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chief. I'm Jake Patton. I've been in my role as a strength and conditioning coordinator for Fairfax County Fire and Rescue for a little over 7 years. prior to this position, I was a strength and conditioning coach at the collegiate level for a little over 8 years, working from Duke University, James Madison University, American University, and pretty much all gamuts of sports on both sides of the male and female population, and have been able to work in a little bit of our sports science mantra and mentality into what we do at Fairfax County.
All right. And Megan, I'll kick it to you.
Hi, I'm Megan Louts. I am the dietitian for Fairfax Fire. I have been here for about 2 years, and I was with Montgomery County Fire and Police prior to, so I'm a dietitian that specializes in first responders.
All right, and then I'm not sure he's going to want to say a few words, but our captain, Chris Blair, is on, who oversees the health programs to date. And
you better say a few words.
I'll let him stay off the mic.
I can say a few words. I can say a few words. I'm Captain Chris Blair. I've been with the department in Fairfax for a little over 21 years. I actually came in with Brian. We were in the same recruit school. I've been in this position for a little over a year now. I'm the captain of the program manager for the health and wellness section, and help support Megan and Jake with anything they need.
Awesome. And then, as Chris mentioned, I've been in 21 years, and he, not to reiterate that, but he and I were in the same recruit school. Actually, I think set like 2 or 3 seats apart from each other. So that also makes our we've spent a lot of time together, and our relationships fun, and our relationships really important among the group here, which is something that's really been important to us also, is building credibility and rapport in a non-punitive program, which you might hear from the WFI piece. So that's one of the really core themes that we think about as we go about. So I started off, I was been in the field for most of my career, as probably many of us are. You can kick the page slide 2, Megan, that's fine. As most of us are. And but just as COVID kicked off, I got pulled into the office to oversee our health wellness programs, as that shop kind of shifted and changed and evolved during that pandemic. We serve 1.14 million people, that give or take. That was from 2021 census, about 1.2, roughly 120,000 incidents a year. Our occupational health center, what we're talking about here today, focuses on, and our whole wellness piece focuses on 4,500 first responders. And we'll talk about some of that collaborative effort that we've kind of delved into from our leading charge. Again, those partnerships with the IAFF, our local, and just our administration, so that labor management whole relationship. We do have a small cadre of volunteers that are partnered with the fire and rescue department, but active, fully staffed career department running around here. The results achieved, I think, is really important, and we're probably all learning this, but we know the science is out there. We know that we can model a lot of the sports science methodology, those numbers, that kind of thing. But what we've really seen is hard and fast, or fitness assessment scores changing and then we'll tie into our certain programs and where we're seeing that. And then also why we've hired certain key components and where those shifts have been made. So I won't steal too much thunder on that point, but we'll get to that as we go along. But I also make mention just on this opening slide, we're really open to hear and learn from you all. And if you guys have ideas, thoughts, questions about what we're doing, if we glossed over something, please share your questions and thoughts, and we're happy to share some ideas on our side too. Next one. So brief timeline. The 1990s-ish, left that a little vague and somewhat on purpose, just that we were one of the first initial 10 departments that started off in the Wellness Fitness Initiative, or the WFI, with the IAFF. And again, I'm belaboring this a little bit, but these relationships and partnerships with the unions, the union and our union, have really made this a successful program to date. And it's still a learning program and a growing program, and we're constantly having conversations to make sure we evolve and enhance our program. We were one of the first 10. Phoenix and us, I think, were one of the couples that took a big lead and jumped forward, which led us into the opening of our occupational health center in 1997. That occupational health center, really focused on the physical side of folks, but we started off following an NFPA 1582 physical, and then taking that standard and even enhancing or tweaking that based on some other medical documentation standards and things that we have internalized in our program, and constantly evolve and evaluate, just as we do with watching what NFPA 1582 does. In the early 2000s, our Wellness Fitness Center, or WellFit, was established. This is our strength and conditioning, our center. And really, that center started as initially as it is still the warehouse that we are today, but it was to set up to handle the candidate physical agility test program and also our work performance evaluation program. In around 2010, we hired our first civilian strength coach. Prior to that, we were either hiring or moving a captain into a position, or one of our captains actually had retired. And so then we started to evolve here, going to the next iteration to where we are with Jake, and Jake will talk a little bit more about, or not, excuse me, a lot more about what he does. Fast forwarding to COVID in 2018, and to the credit of a civilian, to Jake and to the civilian staff and the mindset and expertise they're bringing in, is we started moving away from WPE to FMAP. And I'll let Jake touch on that when we get to that section and explain some more of why that change happened and where we are with our fitness measurement assessment program. In 2020, coming out of COVID, we started to really look at, and this somewhat predicated on when I took the helm, was that, you know, we were doing a lot of great things with our program. Again, as mentioned, the Wellness Fitness Initiative, but that started now almost 25 years ago. So what can we do to tune up our Cadillac? I'm a car guy, others are car guys out there and gals, but I thought, like, how do we tune the Cadillac? How do we take our program to the next step? And that's where Doc Stewart, who's our medical director, he's not here with us tonight, but really another partner with us in this total piece, is establishing the Enhanced Wellness and Resiliency Program. And that was a program and approach really to say, hey, what can we do with our program? How can we look at this program and take it from not just the physical component, but look at health and wellness holistically? So the mind, body, and spirit. And we believe, and as our staff, our personnel are out there, career volunteer, even our civilian folks who are helping support our programs, is that, you know, we know that maintaining health, wellness, and mental performance and fitness of uniformed personnel translated into folks that are more productive, engaged, and then that operationally resilient, or overall just resilient. I know that's a big term that's out there now, but we really just took that and enhanced this program. And we used some play on words and some fun with warp, so kind of warping into that next phase, that next decade, and hopefully set forth some really good institutionalized and operationalized performance, as mentioned in this holistic concept, where everything's integrative, and we realize that all the parts kind of bounce off each other. So as we talk about Cancer Awareness Month, that we know that, you know, certain impacts on the body can also affect cancer or drive up certain rates. We know that as we deal with time and cumulative stress, that being more physically active, more physically engaged, and have these positive outlets can help combat depression and have individuals heal or respond quicker to from vicarious trauma, or having better outlets. So that was kind of the whole piece. I just mentioned our components, our OHC have been around for about 25 years, so a quarter century is a long time, and that's where this idea to tune up. And then in 2022, we have been partnering with agencies for some time now, but we really took this to the next step, where we formally partnered in, you know, more visible, more money, kind of, you know, show me where your money goes, I'll tell you your priorities. But we partnered with, and if you don't mind, Megan, next slide. Collaboration with our other public safety entities. I mentioned those 4,500. Fairfax County is roughly 2,000 first responders and civilian staff. But in that 4,500, it makes up the City of Fairfax Fire Department, which is right in the middle. City of Fairfax Police Department sits right inside of our jurisdiction. Our Public Safety Communications Center, our Sheriff's Department, we believe is going to be coming on board, but we're actually in negotiations as we move monies around. And then the Police Department formally engaging with us now, leading us to that top of the screen there, that kind of that one WellFit, that Joint Performance Center, as we highlighted. So that led us to this last piece, and that was in 23, which is on the bottom of that timeline, is opening this just about 7 months ago, was an offsite. I know this gets kind of tricky, and Megan gives me a frowny face every time I say it, but we have a wellness center, which is our clinicians, our behavioral health clinicians. We took our program coming out of COVID, realizing the impacts of COVID, impacts of our job overall, you know, the need to be there for our folks. And we took what we had was like kind of this enhanced EAP program with really no counseling other than just kind of funneling folks to other counselors to actually internalizing a program and taking, I think, a huge leap forward and opening up a offsite public safety wellness center that's in a collaborative effort for all of our partnering agencies, but really was started by fire taking the lead and saying, hey, we can do better. We can find clinicians. We don't, not that psychologists aren't great, but we shied away to have people that, again, that we could build at a certain price point, that we could lean forward with these clinicians, that they could bring youthful energy, can build credibility, could be rapport, get out to the field to meet folks. And so, as I mentioned, that holistic piece is also shift this whole program from being reactive to more proactive, to getting out there early, to lean in, all those other terms that we hear time and time again when we talk about just fighting a fire or medical care. So today, which will be a good segue, I'll kick over the wellness center and kind of what it is. But it's off-site, 7,500 square foot space. It has 5 clinicians right now, LCSWs, LPC, LMSW, so all different realms. We will be hiring 2 more for a total of 7 to support those 4,500 personnel that are out there. We know to date, and we opened this door up, that there are over 5,000 clinical hours, just even prior to opening these doors. And we kind of think that Field of Dreams analogy, if we build it, they'll come. And I think we're seeing that now. I highlighted as talking to where our backbone came from folks who started the WFI. Pat Morrison might be a big name you guys have heard out there. It was with us in time, and these guys getting our occupational health center open, and our medical director, Dr. Don Stewart, our 3 other treating physicians, our 2 PAs, and then the 7 nurses and a case manager, return to work program manager who help support that program, all providing those Cadillac executive physical based off the NFPA 1582 program. Last component that's kind of tied in the occupational health center is our physical therapist, Nate Pierce. We have him embedded with the program, providing physical therapy for the whole gamut. So, Jake, I'll kick it to you for strength and conditioning and kind of what's under your shop with you and Chris.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chief. I guess just to kind of reiterate a few of the things you had mentioned, Chief Edmiston, our big, push and mission is to serve the assets of our department, which are our people, right? And to steal the line from Coach John Hoffman, us as a wellness and fitness and health and wellness division are supposed to be our personnel's, 911 call when they need help with injuries, behavioral health components, whatever it is that we could provide them. We're supposed to be readily available. And so we are blessed in many ways to have the assets that we have as a division, with Megan, with Nate, now with PD involved, and then also just the personnel that we have, such as Captain Blair, Chief Edmiston, Chief Johnson on board now, and the buy-in that we've gotten. So I can't say, I know we were talking before this webinar started, just about like, hey, what you did right, what you did wrong. And honestly, it's the Nelson Mandela quote of, you don't really lose necessarily. We don't do anything, that's necessarily wrong. It's more or less we've learned from a lot, and we found new ways to win and strive to, better ourselves, but hopefully be able to better everybody that we're helping and involved with, So again, thank you for having us on this webinar. I feel like it's a great opportunity for us to talk and share ideas. When it comes to strength and conditioning, again, the sports science model, we always talk to our people and especially our command staff and senior staff about what it is that we could be doing better in terms of, reducing the risk of injury, helping to improve performance on the fire ground, but also just in life in general. And that comes from strength and conditioning, mostly from our shop, but also how you eat, how you sleep, and how they all affect each other. And so we've tried to provide them with a blanket of, education to motivation, to support, and anything in between that, right? So when I first got there in 2016, in this position, I should say, when I first got here, I was able to watch our work performance, as Chief Edmiston had mentioned, and watching the job tasks and basically a pass-fail assessment. And it was as simple as us as a staff looking on and seeing a few of our people have a hard time even donning their gear. And it was simply because they were very deconditioned. It wasn't that they didn't know how to do it. It wasn't that they had no experience doing it or that they hadn't done it in a long time running calls or whatnot. It was the fact that they didn't realize how deconditioned they had gotten. But once they were able to somehow finagle their jacket on or, reach around to turn on their SCBA, they were then able to pass the assessment in under 10 minutes and 47 seconds. And to us, we looked at each other and said, hey, listen, as a wellness and fitness shop, not as basic training, not as field training, or not as a captain or a battalion chief of an actual whole battalion, what can we be doing better to help our people not have that issue and not potentially be at risk for cardiovascular issues? And so we just looked at all the sports science books and things that we knew as coaches and said, hey, listen, how can we implement an assessment? Obviously we have some mobility and flexibility assessments that we were implementing in the field and just kind of having a hands-on marketing approach to, hey, you had some issues with your hinge and your deadlift. Here are some things to correct that. Hey, you had some issues with your overhead press, some impingements in your shoulders. Here's some things to correct that. It was more of like, hey, there's that, and then let's build upon that. So that each year that we see you, we're not necessarily relying on one thing or another. We know that we're going to have a pretty routine check-in with you. And so, fast forward, we are 7 years into it, but really about, I'd say 4.5, 5 years of solid data and a solid flow of our people going through and having their annual physical and having their FMAP, their fitness assessment, conducted at the same time. And that assessment includes a pull-up or chin-up, a sit-up, curl-up, a push-up, and a step test. And without going into the weeds on too much of it, you do have rest in between. It's 2 minutes between each station until you get to the very end. You have 3 minutes before the step assessment. The step assessment is to get kind of an estimated VO2 per se. The push-up and the curl-up are 1 minute max effort repetition events. And then the pull-up chin-up is just a maximum effort. How many can you get? And if you can't, great, let's talk about it, right? The whole point of it is, right, and I know there's a lot of naysayers as to assessments of this magnitude or certain exercises. I'll be the first one to admit I don't love the sit-up and the curl-up, but it was kind of a grandfathered thing. Regardless of all those things, it's been phenomenal and has been super efficient and successful in allowing for our shop to get in the door, per se, with our people and have a conversation with them. Hey, it's not that a pull-up can make or break you as a firefighter. But if you can't do it because of an impingement, an injury, wear and tear, maybe you just don't know how to do it or program your training to do it, this is where we can help you. Is it a sleep energy thing? Is it a deconditioning thing? Is it a dietary thing, right? Here's Nate's numbers. Here's Megan's numbers, our clinicians' numbers. It's allowing us to have those conversations with our people and get more involved, to get more personal with them and establish a relationship. And as Annette Zapp would say, meet them at their level, right? It's not expecting them to be a Division I athlete or, a special forces operator. We're just trying to get them to be a better version of themselves, to have a longer and healthier career into a happy and healthy retirement. So without getting too much involved with that, into the weeds with that, that's kind of where a lot of this started. It was, all right, work performance was the bread and butter of what we were doing. And we had our own issues with it, with, deconditioning elements like I've talked about. We only do it once a year, and we didn't have a whole lot of many failures out of it, which is a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing because there wasn't a lot of data to pull from it. We weren't truly measuring their cardiovascular output. And so enter that FMAP. We now were then able to develop our group workouts out of our gym. So pretty much right now, the way that we're running, and it's taken a long process of about 2 to 3 years to kind of figure out what time slots they were supposed to be run at based off when people were coming off shift or starting a shift. And so basically they run 0600 to 1000. And it's an hour long, no more than, sometimes less than. Get in, warm up, foam roll, do some mobility, kind of wake their brain up, wake the body up. Chief Emerson mentioned being a car person. We have a lot of those, especially when, the job consists of apparatus. We use a lot of those analogies. Your body is your car. Your heart, your lungs are the engine, per se. Your arms, your legs are the tires and the axle. So we talk about a lot of that and try to make it as specific to things that they're familiar with on the fireground, in the firehouse, or in life. And they work out. And each time that we see them, which might only be once every month, might be once a tour, it kind of depends, but we try to help push them to do just a little bit more and a little bit more. But within that time, same confines, it's, hey, you do you. Even though you might be in a group atmosphere, you might be working out with your crew at the fire station. It doesn't matter. Like, that's great for team building, all that stuff, but I want you to focus on you as the individual. And so we really driven that point home in all the groups, like I've talked about, to the point now we have a light duty workout group at 0900. So of that 6 to 10 o'clock 4-group time frame, we have one group that is open to anybody, but is specifically designed for a light duty group to walk in the door and get a workout in. So pretty much we train everything but their injured body parts. And we work alongside our OHC docs, Nate, Anna, Sidori, our athletic trainers, and then obviously our people's personal primary doctors, I should say, and then also their maybe side athletic trainer and physical therapist that they might be using outside of our shop. But regardless, we always have a communication line open up between all of us and working together as to, hey, this was an ACL injury. We have, X amount of months to work with them. They're post-op, maybe 4 months. And so we're still not really necessarily touching their knee, or maybe we are, but just very limited. And we still work within a firefighter and police now group mentality to make sure that they're around other people just like them with the same mission and objective, which is to get back to the field. So I would say to be able to utilize our mobility assessments, our physical fitness assessments, our workouts, whether it's at the station level or at our gyms, they are all one cohesive, living creature that basically feed off each other. And we're then able to utilize those conversations for each thing as to how it can benefit them back in the field. And then at the same time, we manage our peer fitness trainers, which are over about 65 people with PD involved, and educating them with the latest and greatest concepts, how to use certain equipment, how to see the programming that we provide, and make adjustments, regressions, modifications, progressions when needed, and better, suit the workout for their people, let alone potentially a light duty group that they might be working. We got obviously very blessed to expand that PFT realm into our academies. They're leading the academy workouts. So our shop designs the programs for them each week. For example, we know that we have about 8 weeks before suppression starts in the academy. So we usually do, 3 to 4 weeks at a time as to building them up for strength, getting them ramped up with hypertrophy and a lot of high volume stuff. And then, eventually working in more intensity as they get ready for suppression, and then getting in gear and going to burns, going to whatever the curriculum is for the academy. Obviously, we're working together with basic training staff and their chiefs and captains as to how we want to ebb and flow with the programming. Are they burned out? They need to do mobility and foam rolling only the next day, or, hey, it was an easy day yesterday, let's ramp it up today. It's been really unique and really cool, and learning how that system can flow and work for us based off communication, right? And I think that's the common theme, as we've talked about, like I said before we jumped on here. It's all based around how good of a conversation and how consistent we are with those communications and conversations with the parties involved as to how successful we can be. I think the biggest example of that too is the PD involvement, having police involved with us, sharing a facility, sharing a lot of our funding ideas, and being able to benefit or have our people benefit from it is all based off of a conversation that we had with the police chief one day. It was the day that he got sworn in. He was brand new to the department. We stopped by, saw him, talked to him, and said, hey, this is what we do with fire. We would love to somehow get a coordinated effort involved with the relationship building. And it took off from there, and like Chief said, if you build it, they will come, right? So the sky's the limit in a lot of ways. We're still in the infancy of a lot of things too, but they are trying to mirror a lot of what we have going on because it's more beneficial, and they see that in terms of managing our people's fitness capabilities, but also performance capabilities. Let's see, the university partnerships, working with our local universities to try to get an internship, I'd say probably program, but also just a partnership going. We were able to successfully get an intern going through the background check currently, but we have an intern lined up from George Mason University that's going to jump on board with us here shortly. And they're going to be able to help us in all assets of health and wellness and fitness, from, again, Megan's shop to Nate and Anna's, as well as the strength and conditioning side. And then hopefully grow that out, so it's not just one position, it's, 3 to 4 potentially. And it's from different universities, American University, Georgetown, George Mason, and then expanding those roles, hopefully, and again, bring about that sports program mentality, because it has been successful. And that's not to say that all professional sports, collegiate sports, or high school sports necessarily do it right. but that model has definitely been efficient and successful in a lot of different assets and ways. So it's given us, more power to help our people and to guide them in the right direction with all the things considered, and open up the doorways again for yoga, for our cold plunge that, PD got involved into our shop, and we're able to utilize for many different reasons, obviously. But it's been able to really help us grow a department and grow ourselves as a staff, and then again, hopefully help out many other agencies and departments across the country.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Really good overview. Obviously, we have a lot going on. We have a lot of resources too, and I think everyone just keep in mind, like, we've been doing this now for 25 years, so a long time. It's lessons learned, as Sarah mentioned. A lot of it is patience, perseverance, and keep reiterating that relationship piece. And that ties back to our occupational health center and getting our docs engaged with us. Our docs engaged with why FMAP, or why we want to go to the fitness measurement assessment program. What are we seeing in the field? How does that change? Bring them out for in-services. So we keep looking at different ways to train, educate, and develop. That's one of the big, really core concepts. And then Jake mentioned, like, also educating our peers, our uniform peers or civilian peers, to go out and actually, push the programs, being peer fitness coaches on the strength and conditioning side, or our peer fitness team, our peer support team on the wellness center side. And both of those teams are hovering about 50 people, which is good. And then adding the partnerships with the PD if need be, or finding other resources that people have lots of places to go. Megan, I kick it to you, kind of your role in this eWarp whole program.
Sure. Just before we get into my stuff, because we don't have our physical therapist and athletic trainer, I just wanted to kind of elaborate on some of the services they provide, because I think that's probably a big bang for your buck for return on investment. Physical therapy, we have Nate Pierce. He was initially hired for fire and is now collaborating with police. And from my understanding, he's funded he's through an external FX physical therapy, and he bills insurance. So I don't think we necessarily pay him we don't pay his salary, I guess is what I'm getting at. But Nate does a lot of return to work hardening. He also does dry needling if it's warranted, and he'll get a referral from the physician. And then we also have athletic training, which is Anna Sidori. So when police came onto the contract, they brought in Anna. She's an internal employee with police. And based out of the Criminal Justice Academy, so the police academy. So she'll tape them up, she'll do injury management, injury prevention, and then she also is certified in cupping therapy. So those two are integral parts of our program. From the nutrition side of the house, everybody's favorite side of the house for fire and police, right? I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and one thing I want to clarify, so a lot of departments will look around for like a nutritionist, or there's that one fit firefighter who's a nutritionist and he's keto and he's trying to make everybody keto, or vegan and trying to make everybody vegan. One of the benefits of hiring a dietitian is not only are you going to get an evidence-based professional, but on top of that, we can do something called medical nutrition therapy. And medical nutrition therapy is basically any sort of diet that is required for a medical condition. We are able to coach and counsel a patient or client firefighter on. So that means if they go to OHC or Ock Health Clinic and they come out and they're like, my cholesterol's high, I can help work with them on a diet to help lower cholesterol, for example, a higher fiber diet. If we've had a couple people, because we do the ultrasounds through UDS, we've had a couple people pop up with thyroid cancers and having to get their thyroid removed and having to do iodine radiation therapy, which requires a no iodine diet, which it turns out when your food is salted, iodine's in everything. So working with people on, a no iodine or a low iodine diet. So it really kind of runs the gamut from the nutrition perspective. And again, a dietitian is going to be qualified to be able to do that through their education. Some other funner things that I do, hydration support. Hydration is always going to be key, especially in recruit or training scenarios. We actually use Liquid IV because we've done price comparisons. There are other products that are great out there. This is the one that has worked for us in terms of budget constraints. So for the academy, for USAR, and for trainings, that's usually provided. I also do smoothie demos, lunch demos, and dinner demos. And the reason for that is, who really wants to bring the dietitian to talk about nutrition to the station if there's no snacks involved? Let's be honest. So some of those things are like a Reese's smoothie or a buffalo chicken wrap, and then I make them listen to my nutrition-related tangents on caffeine, fad diets, heart health, all of that kind of stuff worked into shift work. Obviously considering for exposure to trauma and the lack of sleep factored into that education. And then the last big thing that I do is educational material development. So any sort of poster campaigns, which we have a couple free posters that are hydration related, I can send those to Dr. Janke. And then any other like FMAP materials, that kind of stuff. And then also, so we have some social media presences. If you're looking for the workouts, actually, Jake and Brandon post the workouts at WellFit Strength daily, I think. So that would be something to follow if you're looking for some guidance there. And then I post at rescue.rd firefighter nutrition tips.
I think we've given a really good overview of our programs, of kind of what's happening. To highlight, as Megan mentioned, we've taken a leading approach, whether it was the one-test cancer screening or the ultrasound screening, and now partnering with even our hospital systems, Inova, with the Grail test that's out there, or a Pathfinder study. We just keep kind of scratching and clawing, looking for opportunities, all the while staying relevant, building that credibility and rapport, and then really being mindful of the relationships and the need to incrementally build this program out, to evolve, to enhance it, and again, that we're having these effective conversations with our local leaders, our union members, and that we're always checking ourselves against best practices and learning how to go, and that's kind of what's led us to where we are today. So I think I want to highlight some other really cool things like this at the end too, not on the ultrasound screens as just mentioned, because that has been really impactful for our people, and giving not only just the quantity of time, but really quality time back to serious illness on the cardiovascular level and also the cancer level. But we've had Dr. Gary Chapman, which is the picture on my left, which for you guys. So, but we bring in speakers outside, and then we found really cool ways to do this through collaborative funding efforts. Our WellFit Center recently expanded because of our partnership with our public safety folks, PD, Fairfax County PD specifically. We just reinvested about $170,000 there in equipment. This is a smaller scale here, but we just like that picture. To WFI on the bottom of the screen, I beat that up, and then you see Megan and Jake there helping out and being right there with our staff, being out there forward leaning, out in the field, out in the stations, and not just sitting back waiting for that person to come and visit. So Sarah, I think we're at a good spot. Do we miss anything we can highlight some more for you guys, or any questions?
That's it. That's all you have.
That's it. Done.
Oh my gosh. No, I have so many questions. So I've been noting them here, but everyone who is listening, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. I believe Mel will correct me if I'm wrong, which I often am. But so I need some honesty here. What is the time? Like, it sounds like from when you started, and I mean, like, you start with like Pat Morrison, who is one of my absolute heroes in the fire service, especially with health and wellness. Was there ever a time in the process that you feel like it stalled out, or that I put a time you felt like it failed, but it doesn't have to be failed. Like, has there been a time where you're like, this just is not moving forward? And then how did you get over that?
Yeah, I'll use Jake. I'll have him share his story, I think, and he'll keep it short and sweet, but I think it has to do with work performance and FMAP and kind of presentations he made and stuff, and where we are. And I can maybe summarize a little bit from my side.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few instances for sure. I think the very first, year or two leading from 2016 to 2018, again, that huge cultural shock, as we all like to joke about, we hate the way things are and we hate change. So having that conversation as to what that would look like potentially with that change to work performance, even though people didn't like it, they weren't sure about an assessment, to every 2 years, 3 years, give or take, we're going to have new leadership, captains, battalion chiefs. I've had 3 different fire chiefs technically in my 7-year span. So I think it's not necessarily that we saw negative responses to it. It was a lot of delayed, hurry up and wait. Let's let things kind of happen. Aircraft carrier takes a little while to turn left type of a situation. But we just stayed determined and persistent as to, why things are going to work the way they need to work. Constantly hounding, Chief Edmondson has he would never have anything negative to say about how much I griped to him about certain things, but me constantly texting him, calling him, us talking, fighting the good fight, and him having to simmer me down a little bit, and all in a professional way, but just kind of pushing the narrative of, hey, we need to do this for our people, and here's why. No matter what chief or who was in front of us, and then especially with COVID. I mean, COVID, as we all know, threw a huge wrench in a lot of things, but we kept our head down. We did what we could with the help of OHC. Not everything was perfect by any means, and not everything was forward moving, but we never went backwards. It was at least, hey, let's keep our head above water, keep treading, find new ways to get out in the field or talk to people or help them or what have you.
I think it's
Awesome.
inevitable. Like, Sarah, that's a great question. I think for anyone working on a program like this, competing for resources, finite resources of that when operations are out there, your justification, your plan, applying that business model, that sense. Megan mentioned it. What's the ROI? What are the number crunchers going to say, and how do you share that back? So, I think for us is maintaining the positive focus, knowing where we were and where we can land, and then continue to work and build incrementally. It's much easier to digest that small bite, right, than a huge bite of something. And that's how we attack it. And then we look at it from all kinds of different angles too, and work and be creative in your thinking, be bold, when you go through these things, but you got to balance that creativity and those opportunities that present themselves. Like, when is that window cracked open enough that you can get in there and go with it?
If I can add real quick too, I think one of the other strong components, because Chief Edmondson pretty much alluded to it, but getting out to the station level. And it wasn't always to lead them in workouts. It was more or less like, hey, we know station so-and-so and shift so-and-so has some gripes about this, or, hey, they have a lot of questions. Cool. Let's get out there, be transparent, be open, establish that rapport, again, meet them at their level, and be ready to take some criticism and heat and just explain our side of things. And I mean, I would almost say, and correct me if I'm wrong, team, but 99% of the time, once we did that, the naysayers, quote unquote, or whatever you want to call them, they had that kind of epiphany, like, oh, you're trying to help us. You're not after our jobs. You're not after, you're not judging us. As we always joke, we don't judge, we assess. And how can we help you perform better? And that's always the conversation that we always end with is, hey, this is for you all. Again, we're supposed to be your 911. Let us help you.
So, question, because you brought up a lot of really great points, but one of them that I had too was, how often is, like, your average, you've got a ton of folks, how often is your average firefighter interfacing with someone from the health and wellness group? Is it definitely annual? Okay.
Oh, well, at minimum annually. Yeah. I mean, we have an annual requirement for physicals, annual requirement for the fitness measurement assessment program. So that's happening all the time. We are trying to incorporate that education piece, that training. We don't want to solve everyone's problems. We want to drive curiosity. So we create, we did create and are continuing to evolve this program, which is basically a magazine or a periodical to go out to the stations that talks about, healthier for the holidays, and say, hey, here are your resources. Here are your SMEs. One thing I think is really important for, like, Chris and I being brass, right? Not everyone wants to come share with us, but to break down those barriers to wherever that care is, wherever that stigma is, put them with the SMEs like Jake, like Megan, our docs, our clinicians. Yeah. Take me out of that picture where they think or perceive maybe that there'd be some kind of HR punitive nature associated. We're really careful. That's really, we're really support and really careful about internalizing or ensuring there's confidence in our program and there's trust and confidentiality in that program, in all the programs. It should be
awesome. Some questions that I have and that people in the chat have around financing. So Melissa's asking, especially including, she says, thank you for presenting this progressive program, especially including law enforcement, an idea of how much a program like this costs. And then Josh is asking, Where's the funding come from? Have you used any AFG funds? I'm not sure. I'm having trouble speaking today, but those are a couple of questions.
Yes. Oh, yeah, there's definitely a cost to the program. Our occupational health center, for example, is roughly about $4.5 million, increasing probably to the $5-ish million range.
Just for fire?
The occupational health center oversees the 4,500 plus employees.
Okay.
And then it supports those other agencies, right? That collaborative effort. So each of those agencies will have a take of some percentage into that total cost. Fire took the lead of that program, which we're really proud of in building that forward. But now with these partner agencies, has made us, as Jake and others have mentioned, like we're able now to share those resources out by hiring Megan or hiring folks under as a contracted level. So she touched on that real quick, Megan, being that because we hire our docs, our PAs, our even at Jake at one point was a contractor, and we brought him over to the county staff. So your personnel costs, of course, your most. And then the rest of it, is building in like Chris, our team down at WellFit, our uniform side, is allocating those position occupancy numbers. So I think it's all in what you make it and what resources you have. Our equipment, we one thing we do to control costs, maybe is a better way to look at it, is like we've started shying away from like ellipticals or things with moving parts, going back to those typical lifts with kettlebells, which ties right into our strength and conditioning programs. And then Megan touched about this ROI piece, and I'm probably bouncing around without giving like a total solid answer, but there's definitely a cost. But what is the return on investment, and what are the people getting back to work? That resiliency component that we haven't figured out how to define that yet for folks, but we have seen it out in the corporate market with companies like Ready Rebound or others in associated departments where they're getting people back to work sooner and faster, and we're cutting down those referral networks. We're bringing people to these resources much faster, much quicker, and we're keeping people at work resilient.
So still focusing on the law enforcement fire, because I'm really interested in how that interfaces, and I am seeing other people are too. What is is there any kind of tension between fire and law enforcement in terms of the health and wellness stuff? And is there kind of a hierarchy for managing the programs, or like, how do you integrate? Because it's a great cost savings, like you mentioned, but how do you play nice in the same sandbox, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. That was probably a lesson learned, or relationship building. I feel like we invited him to prom a couple times, and then the first thing said, we're not going to do that. But what we to find out with some certain changes in those opportunities when people in different positions is to keep sharing that message. Know where you are and what you're trying to achieve, and then how to execute that and get them to play along and be with you. So the police, though, we don't have the things, typically. I don't know why I'm not using a name, but what you hear at FDNY or NYPD, that kind of like typical things. We tend to see our police officers, and we have been inviting some time, especially with joint action or hostile event type guides, things with active shooters, bringing them by through trainings, doing different things. And that was actually one of the key things I told to the police was like, hey, this is a way also to break down relationships, for people to meet people. We have TAC officers, we have undercovers, we have detectives, we have leader management coming by, and they're sharing. And now we're just smoking and joking because we know you let loose a little bit. You shut off all the uniform piece, and you can just kind of say, hey, I'm in the gym. I'm letting go some steam. So what we found a little bit in the idea and leadership is like, okay, how do we maintain these programs in case one entity doesn't want to play along with the other entity? And so we did some background. We established a guiding document that says, hey, this is what our leaders are going to commit to. And thankfully to, again, Chief John Butler and Police Chief Kevin Davis and the other chiefs that not to belabor or mention, but like they signed a document saying, hey, we're committed to this together. And so we want to institutionalize that process, saying we're committed to this ethos and to do this, to drive forward this mission to support our people. No matter what the patch is, right? Take the patch off. We're all probably dealing with a similar issue. So we just got there a little differently.
Yeah. And you mentioned Ready Rebound. You don't contract with them, right? You've just built up some services in-house with medical providers.
We are
connections
pursuing and looking to do. We're really fortunate to have the occupational health doctors there that referral process, that very effective referral process already there. Those relationships are built in. We didn't see necessarily need to go to outside contractor, and we're hoping now to build our second or onto our phase of a director of rehab position, nurse case manager,
nice.
internal pieces, along with Nate and Anna, which will help hopefully in partnering with those outside offices, outside orthopedic offices or whatever it might be, to help get people in sooner, quicker, and not sitting on the sidelines, doing the rest ice mentality kind of thing, and then coming back in for the next more advanced screening. So almost like, what you would see like in a football program. That's kind of where we're trying to head and do that, which would be what a commercial product does.
Yep. So speaking of some of the things around assessments, there are a couple of questions here, and I'll just read them so I don't screw them up. But if someone fails the FMAP, is the employee taken off the line, and how long are they given to pass the FMAP? And kind of tied to that is a question around, if the program, like required physicals or the PFT, is non-punitive, how long is a member allowed to stay in operations or in non-operations with limitations? And is there a level of risk the chief is willing to underwrite?
Let's go to that scroll, find that one. But if I may actually go back to real quick, just on the funding piece, and then we can attack that one real quick. I failed to mention like AFG. Yes, we use AFG. We leverage AFG for the ultrasound scans. We're really fortunate to get almost $500,000 to do that. Roughly 1,400 members, and that has been a really great program for our folks. And as Megan mentioned, we've identified cancers, thyroid cancers, kidney masses, pancreatic masses, things like that. So it's been really effective. And then also fire programs is another grant source. So funding for grants, if you guys can get out there and find grants, definitely go for it. Grants, for example, have helped us purchase a lot of weight equipment and that kind of piece. Going to FMAP. Our fitness, FMAP is an advisory tool. It's a way to provide an assessment. Hey, we found it working on all kinds of different things. People actually open up to our coaches to talk about what's happening. It could be physical stress, it could be a shoulder hurt, a knee hurt, something of that nature, or it could even be a wellness issue, a mental health type thing, where they're like, hey, I've just been busy, I'm dealing with stress at home. So that FMAP is not a punitive tool, it's an advisory tool to understand, to see what's going on. Is there an injury? Is someone conditioning? We again really fortunate to have a standard operating procedure where we do require PT and workouts and a fitness standard. And so as Jake went through, we did develop the tool. The Bruce Protocol treadmill, which is what's offered at our OHC, is really what's going to drive being pulled from the field or not. And it gets a little more complex, and I'll separate those two components. But initially, if they fail the FMAP, the assessment program, they go to a treadmill evaluation. The treadmill, then this is where it matches close to what NFPA 5282 prescribes. If they're at 12 METs or greater, well, really, if they're 10 METs equal to or greater, they can stay in the field and continue to work. For us, we're probably a little more, again, we lean forward again. If they're under 10 METs, or there's other medical conditions associated that are diagnosed by the docs that are watching the treadmill, we will pull them from the field at that time and put them into a fitness improvement program. We see a very small percentage of our folks actually get into the out of the station piece. On the other side of the coin, kind of going back to the measurement assessment program, if you pass the treadmill per se, that 10 METs or greater than, you then go through the process for up to 6 months in a fitness improvement plan in station, monitored by our coaches, with our coaches working, our dietitian, personnel will get referrals to then, and hopefully they'll start making the right changes in the next 6 months. After that 6 months, if there's no improvement or decline or aggressive, again, we meet with them, understand what's happening, and then if need be, they can be pulled from the field at that point. And then we'll then personalize the coaching. We'll bring them down to well-fit, more mandated type interaction or engagement with them until they can get back to the field. Overall, all in all, if someone was to go into that, if they're in that 10 METs or greater than or equal to, they have barely 17 months to get back to shape before any true punitive action is taken.
How often do you see that being an issue now that you have the program up and running? Is that pretty rare or common?
It's pretty rare. I mean, we do have folks that kind of come in and out of the FIPs, like the fitness improvement plans in the stations for varied reasons. And we also leading forward onto our staff, our operations staff, our captains, our battalion chiefs out there, making sure that they're partaking in the PT program. So, Chris, what are the numbers right now that you have for folks in FIPs and stuff? If you have that ready.
I mean, currently we average probably around 30 to 34 people that are in station fitness improvement plans. And then people that are on light duty, we have, I think we may have 3 that are on light duty, but to have 30 to 34 on a in station fitness improvement plan out of what are we at, about 1,500 uniform employees is a very small number.
Yeah, I said like 3%. It's like 2%. Just doing the math there real quick. So it's a small number. But again, really fortunate. Again, we've had a standard operating procedure for a long time. You know, we started way back with a 1.5 mile run to where we are today, and this is kind of ingrained in us. But we continue to work on that. We continue to work that with our recruits, as mentioned, all the way through, so that you're going to be here. We're going to work with you. We're going to work with you 25 years. A little different than a typical athlete, but then that 25-year career span, ish.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And 2% is not, one of the big concerns that I always hear anytime a department implements anything new is, oh my God, everyone's going to be fired. And I have yet to find that to be, on your medium to even large departments. I think the most I've heard is like 2 people who chose to leave. So I don't hear that being really common, but I like the way you're approaching it with, there are things that we can do. Oh, Josh is saying that he appreciates the webinar and he's learning lots up here in Anchorage, Alaska. Oh, I bet that's cold. Missed time off work. You said 3 months when someone's off work?
No, potentially they could be. So we have a light duty SOP also. Light duty SOP typically be used for injuries, illness, FMLA type events, pregnancy, childbirth, that kind of thing. And then also we tie that SOP into our fitness improvement plan SOP. So if someone cannot complete or through the training over that 6 months course, they could be put into a light duty program. So it gets a little complicated over here, but we're happy to work with anybody, or if someone wants to reach out on the side, I can explain more and actually walk you through that. I don't want to confuse anybody here, but our SOPs are also, just like we're trying to do with the relationship, our SOPs connect and all that stuff. And so that's how the program works. But someone could be off for 11 months.
Perfect.
And just to clarify, so we've been doing this since 2019, I think, right? So it didn't become like mandatory non-punitive until like 2021, if I'm correct. Sorry, I'm off on the dates, but we have data to show that that's helped improve body composition. Is there anything else, Brian, that you wanted to note on that?
That's a great point. We didn't come in just like barnstorming from work performance into the FMAP and just say, hey, we started getting an evaluation tool for a couple of years, see what's happening. COVID threw some wrench into our numbers. And then, we call it 2021 is about where we then enhanced where we were and evolved the program after sitting down and reviewing this and saying, hey, let's look at this program this way with a heavier focus on cardiovascular conditioning overall than just pure muscle strength.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you comment on your satisfaction with the Gallery and One Test cancer screens? I know that you said that you've done experimented with quite a few. Any thoughts on what you've seen?
Yeah, I want to say both companies are great. I kind of want to lend away from endorsing anybody or saying anything specifically. Again, happy to talk to anybody offline about specifically how they were. One Test Cancer, for those that are familiar with what that group is, Gene 2020 uses antigen proteins and cancer markers. These deal with probability scoring and confidence scoring. Galleria also deals with probability and confidence scoring, but uses DNA sloughing from cancer. So 2 different sciences. Both, I think, are working to get FDA approval. In Galleria, we're just kind of seeing now work. We did a full thing with One Test, and I could talk again with somebody offline about that. That was internal through a grant. Galleria, we're partnered with our large hospital partner here in the region, Inova, and they're using a Pathfinder study, which I think there's some within the region, so that they're open. But Inova has been gracious enough to open this up. We really support firefighters and wanting more firefighters involved. So we're just starting that. But I will comment on I think the UDS screening, just because of how effective that's been to be a very visual representation in the 7 to 9 body parts, varying sex, of course. And we have found cancers immediately, and we have treated cancers immediately, or cardiovascular blockages or something like that immediately. So, but all of this, each one of those requires that referral network kind of in the background, helping get the person to the next test. These are all just preliminary early tests. I will say that's a word of caution, just as you work these program out. It's not one and done, and then you could just move on. You got to have some support in the background for those folks, or at least help them to tell them where they're going to go.
Awesome. We are up on time, so I am going to just ask you one quick question. Then I think it's an important one. Captain in charge has been on for 21 years. What's the transition plan? What's the sustainability of the program too?
That's a great question. I mean, succession is what we all talk about, right? So this is what we've kind of been building, and why it's so important to institutionalize these processes. And so each step is going back, not only taking the documents that are set forth from the local, the IFF, but then building upon those and putting things to paper. So we've institutionalized our functional movement assessment, our fitness measurement assessment program as an SOP, our annual physical screenings and SOP, our light duty programs and SOP. So you see how these are getting institutionalized type process and programs. So the succession plan is then, continue to take those pieces forward, leave that paper trail, so that the next group can come in as a living document, continue to enhance that program, and to, as our chief said today, was to move forward, move in that direction, and be active in that, and continue to enhance these programs. And we've taken that to heart. We took that to heart years ago, and that's what we continue to do. So I'd say, again, this is 25 years in the making, and you can see where it is today and where we're continuing to go with it. So
awesome. I'm tweeting us. So my social media person on here can be proud that I'm doing something
nice,
social media related for Science Lane. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I've heard a lot about what you're doing before, and this is even a more in-depth review than I've heard before, and I'm even more impressed than I was before. So I'm feeling very confident in our choice to select you guys as a spotlight on success, because you're really killing it up there. So thank you so much. Can people reach out to you if they have questions?
Yeah, please. My name has been on there. I might direct you to some of the staff and all that stuff. They're the SMEs here. I'm so fortunate to be in this environment with you, Sarah, Melanie, you guys having us on. Thank you guys for that. And then, please reach out. We learn from you as much as you guys might learn from us. And but I want to just thank my team and stuff. Chris, Jake, Megan, these guys are great, and that's also been really important. Another lesson learned throughout life is working with good people and continue to get the job done. So thank you all tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Fire Chief John Butler, and his work and efforts continue to support us. Pat Morrison and the others out there. We look forward to being out there with you guys and seeing you around the block.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.